I should have walked past her door. That's what I told myself. Just keep going, don't stop, don't ask if she needs help. But I didn't. Something in the way the porch light flickered, the way the evening felt too quiet for a Friday, pulled me in. She was standing there. One hand braced against the wooden frame of her doorway, the other clutching a roll of tape, like she'd been halfway through fixing something she had no real intention of fixing. "Do you know anything about wiring?" she asked, not even looking directly at me. Her voice carried that mix of certainty and exhaustion I'd only ever heard from people who'd lived long enough to stop pretending they weren't tired. "I'm 23. I'm not supposed to notice things like that, not supposed to care. But I did." Cleared my throat. A little. Enough to probably make it worse. That got the smallest curve at the corner of her mouth. Not quite a smile. More like she didn't want to give me the satisfaction of seeing her amused. Her house smelled faintly of coffee gone cold. Inside, the hallway was dim except for a lamp that leaned awkwardly on a side table. Books were stacked on the floor instead of shelves, and the air carried that warmth of a place that's lived in, not polished for visitors. She kept walking ahead, not waiting to see if I followed. I did. She was maybe mid-40s, maybe older. Dark hair tied up loosely, strands falling in a way that looked more deliberate than accidental. Her posture was composed, but her hands betrayed her. Fidgeting with the tape, tapping against her thigh when she thought I wasn't watching. "You live 2 doors down, right?" she asked without turning. "Yeah, just moved in last month." "I noticed," she said. No smile this time, just the words dropped flat like they carried more weight than they should have. We reached the kitchen, where a half-exposed socket blinked a weak orange glow. I crouched down, more to buy myself time than to do anything useful. The truth was, I barely knew what I was looking at. But she stood behind me, close enough that I could hear the faint hitch in her breathing when she leaned on the counter. It was quiet, too quiet, like even the refrigerator knew not to interrupt. "You don't have to fix it," she said after a long pause. I didn't want to be alone with it tonight." I froze, my fingers brushing against the metal plate of the socket. Alone with it? She could have meant the faulty wiring, sure. But the way her voice softened at the end, it sounded like something else entirely. I turned, and for the first time she met my eyes fully. Not a passing glance. Not the cautious acknowledgement of neighbors. A look that lingered long enough to make me forget what I was supposed to say. Her eyes were dark, sharp, but tired, like she'd been holding something back for a long time. She stepped closer, slow, deliberate, until her hand rested lightly against the counter, just inches from where mine had settled. Her fingers didn't touch, but they could have. They should have. And then she spoke, quiet, but certain. "I've been waiting for you." The words sank into the silence, heavier than anything I'd ever been handed. My throat tightened. I didn't think. I didn't plan. The answer just fell out of me, reckless and inevitable. "Then let's not waste time." Her hand brushed against mine, just once, enough to set everything in motion. The words hung between us like smoke, impossible to wave away. "I've been waiting for you." I didn't know what she meant, didn't dare ask, but I also didn't step back. Maybe I should have. Every part of me knew this wasn't supposed to happen. Not here, not like this. She drew her hand back, slow, almost regretful, and leaned against the counter. "It's been a long week," she said finally, her voice lower now, like she wasn't talking about the socket anymore. I don't usually." She stopped herself, shaking her head as if the words were already a mistake. I tried to focus on the wiring, but my eyes betrayed me. They caught the way her shoulders sloped as if carrying something invisible, the way the loose strands of hair curled against her cheek, the faint mark where she'd bitten her lip without realizing. Dangerous, that's what it was. Not because she scared me, but because I wanted to lean into her when I shouldn't. "You're okay, though?" I asked, my voice too soft, too careful. She laughed once, short, almost bitter. Okay? No, not really. But it's fine. It always is. Her eyes flicked to mine, then away again, like she'd already said too much. That single moment of honesty, though, it stayed. It cut through me in a way no polished conversation ever could. I fiddled with the socket to keep my hands busy, though I knew I wasn't fixing anything. What was I doing here? Why couldn't I just nod, smile, leave? Because she wasn't just my neighbor anymore. Not after tonight. She broke the silence. You remind me of someone. I turned. Someone good. Her mouth twitched. Half a smile, half something sadder. Someone I lost. She let the words fall carelessly, as if she hadn't just dropped them like a weight on the floor. It doesn't matter. But it did. I saw it in the way her fingers pressed into the counter, gripping like she needed something solid. I wanted to ask, to dig, but the question stayed trapped in my throat. Instead, I said, maybe I can come back tomorrow. Take a better look at this. She shook her head. Tomorrow's too far. That was the moment I realized. She wasn't asking for a repair. She was asking for company, and I wanted to give it. But the voice in my head warned me. She's older. She's vulnerable. This could ruin both of you. Still, when she reached out and touched my arm, just a light touch, barely there, it burned through me like fire. Stay a little longer, she said, not quite a plea, but close enough. I opened my mouth, ready to say something I shouldn't, something I couldn't take back. And then I stopped, the words stuck in my chest, fighting to escape. I should have left when she asked me to stay. A good man would have. But instead, I sank into the chair by her kitchen table, pretending to study the socket across the room as if wires could distract me from the pull of her presence. She poured coffee, even though it was late, sliding the mug toward me with a hand that lingered a fraction longer than necessary. The steam curled between us. Don't feel obligated, she said, her tone steady, but her eyes flickered like the porch light outside. I don't, I lied. The truth was I wanted to be here too much. She sat across from me, shoulders sinking, finally letting herself look tired. It was strange, seeing someone so composed let the cracks show. She wrapped her hands around her own mug, even though she didn't drink from it. I couldn't stop noticing her. The way her thumb traced the rim of the cup, the slight tremor in her fingers, the line at the corner of her mouth that deepened when she was fighting to stay quiet. You ever get the feeling you're stuck? She asked suddenly, not looking at me. Like everyone else moved on, and you're just standing there, pretending it's fine. Her voice carried something raw, too raw for two neighbors over late coffee. I swallowed. Yeah, more than I want to admit. That made her look at me. Really look. Like my answer had surprised her, or maybe like it confirmed something she'd suspected. For a moment, the silence between us wasn't awkward. It was heavy, intimate. Her hand brushed the table, close enough to mine that I could feel the warmth radiating. If I reached just a little farther, the sound of her phone shattered it. A shrill ring from the counter. She didn't move, didn't even flinch, just stared at me like the outside world wasn't allowed in. When it rang again, she finally rose, slow, deliberate. She picked it up, glanced at the screen, and silenced it without answering. No explanation, no apology. That was when I realized, whoever it was, she didn't want them to know I was here. I looked down at my coffee, trying to reel myself back, trying to remember the rules of distance. But every time she moved, every time her shadow brushed across the floor toward me, I failed. She leaned on the counter, facing me again. You don't have to look so guilty. You're not the one crossing a line. The words hit harder than they should. My chest tightened. She was right, I wasn't. Not yet. But the fact that she said it meant she knew how close we were. I stood, too fast, knocking the chair slightly. Maybe I should. Don't, she interrupted, her voice low, almost pleading. Her hand reached out, caught my wrist. Not hard, just enough to stop me from leaving. We froze. Her skin against mine, her eyes locked on me. And for the first time, I couldn't tell if we were about to pull away or cross the line completely. Her hand on my wrist should have been nothing. Just skin, just warmth. But it rooted me there, like leaving wasn't even possible anymore. I shouldn't have said that, she whispered. I shouldn't have asked you to stay. Her grip loosened, but she didn't let go. I forced a breath, tried to sound casual, but my voice came out rough. Then why did you? Her eyes lifted to mine, sharp and unguarded. For the first time tonight, she didn't look tired. She looked alive. Because I'm lonely, she said. No hesitation, no softening, just the bare truth. And you make me forget that for a minute. The words hit harder than any confession I'd ever heard. Not because of what she said, but because of how much I wanted to be the person she forgot with. I should have pulled back. I should have made it easier for her. Instead, I leaned forward, just enough that her fingers could feel the tremor running through me. Do you know what it feels like? I murmured. To want something you know you shouldn't touch? Her breath caught. That was my mistake, saying it out loud. Her eyes didn't move away, though. They searched me, like she was deciding if I meant her. Every day, she admitted. Soft, raw. A confession she couldn't take back. We stood there in the kitchen, silence pressing in from every corner. Coffee cooling on the table. The hum of the refrigerator, the only sound keeping us tethered to the ordinary. I told myself to step back, to break it before it broke us. But instead, my free hand lifted, hesitated, hovered just shy of her cheek. Not touching. Not yet. Her lips parted, but no words came. Only her eyes moved down to my hand, then back up to my face. The moment stretched too long, so sharp it hurt. You're too young, she whispered finally, her voice unsteady for the first time. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was the only thing standing between us and the truth. Maybe, I said, but I'm still here. Her throat worked, like she was swallowing something heavy. And then, almost to herself, she breathed, God, what are we doing? It should have ended there. That should have been the line. But neither of us moved. I leaned in closer, the space between us thinning to nothing but air and restraint. Her hand slid from my wrist to my palm, slow, deliberate. Her fingers laced with mine like it was the most natural thing in the world. And then, nothing. No kiss. No step forward. Just us, caught in the stillness, trembling against the edge of something we both knew could ruin us. She held my gaze unflinching. The question in her eyes was louder than any words. And all I could do was stare back. Unable to answer, unable to walk away. Her fingers still laced with mine. Her eyes still fixed on me. When she finally broke the silence. You don't even know who I am, do you? The words felt strange, almost cruel. I opened my mouth to answer, but she shook her head, freeing her hand. You think I'm just your neighbor, some woman you stumbled into, but I knew you long before you ever moved 2 doors down. The kitchen seemed to shrink around me. My chest tightened. What are you talking about? She exhaled, slow, steady, like she'd been holding this back for too long. Your mother. I knew her. Years ago. We worked together. My pulse jumped. You what? I went to your house once. You were maybe 12? You barely looked at me. But I remembered. Her voice cracked on the last word. The first real crack in her composure all night. I tried to pull the pieces together, but the room tilted. This wasn't just attraction. This wasn't just loneliness. There was history, unseen, unspoken, binding us already. That doesn't mean, I started. She cut me off, sharp this time. It means I should have never let you in. It means I should have stopped this before it began. But her hands betrayed her. They gripped the edge of the counter so hard her knuckles whitened, like she was trying to hold herself in place. I stepped closer, my voice low. So why didn't you? Her eyes lifted, wet now, no armor left. Because the second I opened that door and saw you standing there, I remembered what it felt like to be seen. The confession landed heavy. Not just attraction, not just longing, something deeper, older, rooted in regret and recognition. I should have backed away. The line wasn't blurry anymore. It was etched deep in the floor between us. But then the phone rang again. Loud, jarring. The same number lighting up her screen. This time she grabbed it. Answered. Her voice changed instantly, steady, professional. Yes, I'll be there Monday. No, I haven't forgotten. She listened, nodded, murmured her thanks, and hung up. When she turned back to me, her face was unreadable. That was work, she said simply, but something in her tone was wrong. Too clipped, too practiced. I tried to smile, though my chest felt hollow. You don't owe me explanations. She tilted her head, studying me like she didn't know whether to push me away or pull me closer. Then she said the last thing I expected. Maybe I wanted you to find out. Silence stretched, heavy and electric. I didn't know if she was testing me, daring me, or begging me to walk away. My mouth went dry, but the only words that came were reckless. Then tell me what you really want. She didn't answer. She just stared, unblinking, the question hanging between us, threatening to rewrite everything. Her words, maybe I wanted you to find out, echoed between us long after the silence took over. I should have stepped back. I should have given her space. Instead, I leaned against the table, my voice low, almost shaking. Why me? Her arms folded across her chest, like she was protecting herself. Because you look at me like I'm not invisible. The honesty in her voice cut through me. I hadn't expected that. Not from her. Not from the woman who carried herself like she didn't need anyone. I moved closer, slow enough to give her time to stop me. She didn't. You're not invisible, I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. You're the only thing I've noticed since I got here. Her breath caught, and for a moment she looked away, as if hearing it out loud was more dangerous than whatever we were already doing. You're too young, she whispered again, clinging to the excuse like it might save her. Then let me be too young, I shot back. Let me be wrong. Let me regret it later. Just don't pretend you don't feel this too. The room was unbearably quiet. No phone this time, no interruption. Just her staring at me, her lips trembling with all the things she wanted to say and couldn't. Finally, she exhaled, shaky, defeated. Do you know how long it's been since anyone touched me and it actually mattered? My chest tightened. She wasn't asking for pity. She was telling the truth. Without thinking, I reached for her hand again. Not forceful, not demanding, just offering. Her fingers curled into mine like it was instinct, like she'd been waiting for this moment longer than either of us wanted to admit. The space between us vanished. Not with some grand gesture, not with a movie-perfect kiss, but with a closeness that felt heavier, more dangerous. I don't want to ruin you, she whispered, her forehead leaning against mine. You won't, I breathed. If anything, you'll save me. Her eyes closed, and for the first time all night, she let herself lean. Not just physically, but fully. We stood there, pressed together in the middle of her dim kitchen. Two people clinging to something they weren't supposed to have, but couldn't stop needing. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't clean. But it was real. And when she finally spoke again, her voice was steadier, almost calm. If we do this, there's no going back. I didn't answer with words. I just held her tighter, letting the silence carry everything I couldn't say. For the first time, neither of us pulled away. The hum of the refrigerator was still there, but it didn't feel like silence anymore. It felt like the whole house was holding its breath with us. Her hand was still in mine, warm, steady now, as if she had finally stopped resisting the pull that had been there from the start. You should go, she whispered. The words were soft, but they didn't have the same finality as before. I shook my head. Do you want me to? Her eyes closed, her lips pressing together as though she were weighing 1,000 unspoken things. Regret, fear, longing. But when she opened them again, she only said, no. That one word shifted everything. We didn't rush it. We didn't fall into each other like characters in a story that ends neatly after one kiss. Instead, we sat back at the table, still holding hands, letting the weight of the night settle into something we could breathe in. The coffee had gone cold. Neither of us touched it. She told me things I didn't expect, about the marriage that had hollowed out years of her life, about the people she lost touch with, about the moments where she felt herself fading into the background. She didn't dress it up or hide behind polished words. She let herself be seen. And for once, I didn't try to fix it. I just listened. In return, I admitted more than I thought I would. How I'd spent years drifting, trying to figure out who I was supposed to be. How I never felt like I belonged anywhere until I caught her eyes across the street that first week I moved in. It wasn't a perfect confession. It wasn't meant to be. It was two imperfect people putting pieces of themselves on the table. By the time the clock crept toward midnight, we weren't strangers anymore. Not neighbors. Not some cliché of an older woman and a younger man. Just two people who found each other when they weren't supposed to, but maybe when they needed it most. As I stood to leave, she walked me to the door. Neither of us spoke much. Words weren't necessary anymore. At the threshold, she paused, her hand resting against the frame, her eyes searching mine one last time. Whatever happens after this, she said softly, you'll remember tonight. I nodded, my chest tight, my voice low. So will you. I stepped out into the night, the cool air rushing against my face. But I didn't feel alone. Not anymore. Something had changed. In both of us. And whether it lasted or not, whether it ended tomorrow or stretched into something neither of us could predict, it mattered. Because it was real. Because we'd seen each other.